Hello, my name is Richard Townsend. I am an occupational therapy student at Western Michigan University, and the title of my doctoral capstone experience is Occupational Empowerment through the Provision of Functional Literacy Services. As an introduction into this capstone project, I conducted this project and experience at the Kalamazoo Literacy Council. The KLC is a local nonprofit here in Kalamazoo, Michigan that offers free literacy services. Some of those being parent literacy, health literacy, digital skills, financial literacy, job skill training, English as a second language, just an abundance of literacy services and resources that adult learners can receive at the KLC. So for my project specifically, my ACODE concentration area was program development. My site mentors were Abby Weathers and Michael Evans. Abby Weathers is the internship and volunteer manager at the KLC. We had weekly meetings. She offered me support, offered me feedback, gave me a safe space to bring her any concerns or any things I may have wanted to share with her. So I'm appreciative for our relationship and the mentor she provided me with. Michael Evans is the executive director at the KLC. He has extensive history and experience in literacy and journalism from his past careers and jobs. So with that expertise, I was able to bounce ideas off him and receive a little bit more insight on how I can better conduct my presentation and my empowerment program at the KLC. Another important staff member for me that wasn't a site mentor on paper, but was super pivotal and supportive for me was Kamaria Snell. She teaches health literacy and parent literacy at the KLC. She gave me a time block and sacrificed some of her class time to allow me to conduct my empowerment program, which I am extremely appreciative for in that manner. And my empowerment program or empowerment series, as I refer to it, was a segue into other professional educators that were presenting on a topic for her classes. So I appreciate Kamaria Snell, Michael Evans, and Abby Weathers. Also, the other staff, Keto, Jesse, um, Tamika, you all are so appreciated, and I thank you, for welcoming me with open arms, as well as Charles welcoming me with open arms and supporting me throughout this entire process. Thank you all. The population served typically at the adult or at the Kalamazoo Literacy Council are underserved adult learners. Not all are underserved, but many of the adult learners are of low socioeconomic status, may live impoverished, while also possessing low literacy skills. So my purpose for this project was to design and facilitate a weekly empowerment program that integrated functional literacy and life skill development on topics such as positive self-talk, resiliency and SMART goals, mindfulness, time management, habit formation, and confidence building. I also provided one-on-one tutoring for both to address both educational and life goals in learners who wanted that. So I condensed my abstract a little bit from my main paper. This basically just highlights the importance of literacy and how critical of a skill it is in supporting confidence, self-efficacy, and meaningful participation in daily activities and occupations. So alternatively, when you possess low literacy skills, you're directly impacted and limited in your ability to potentially access public transit, understand the healthcare system, attain jobs, involve yourself in the community, um, as a result of those low literacy skills. So when you typically hear literacy and OT in combination, it's typically in a educational setting or a school system, which outline the gap for me. So to address that gap, I wanted to create an empowerment-based literacy course that used OT principles and preventative approaches um, to then maximize educational and life skill development for the participatory adult learners. So as a review into some of the sources I used to back up the need for my capstone project in my literature review, I highlighted the headings of functional literacy and OT, occupational empowerment, resiliency, mindfulness, time management, and habit formation. Functional literacy, as described in one of the research articles, is the ability to decode, process, and use written information in daily self care tasks or occupations. So, using those two in tandem um, was really the highlight of that article. And it talked about how OT, in that sense, looks at the underlying factors within the person. So, functional literacy originally was this idea of mainly written and um, written material and reading material, things that you want to read. But it's been expounded upon to include socio emotional aspects of a person and underlying components of a person that lead to functional literacy growth um, as a whole, holistically as a person. So that was the basis of functional literacy and OT. Occupational empowerment. This was a term that I wanted to coin, but it ended up being a model used in the practice of occupational therapy. And it basically just talks about having the tools and being better equipped when you have self empowerment strategies that then benefit you occupationally and benefit your occupational roles. Um, Many people in my classes held the hats of moms, dads, of children who might have had autism, employees who were shifting to a more technology based uh, interface at work. Um, just a long list of people, international learners that were not English speakers originally. So just looking at occupation and shifting it and personalizing it for the unique person to feel more empowered. And then resiliency, mindfulness, time management, habit formation. These were a few of the topics I covered and just built on that importance of feeling more empowered as a person through the use of OT strategies and functional literacy components. So for my needs assessment, the main identified need that I got when I originally met with my site mentors last year in 2024 um, was this lack of access to empowerment tools and strategies that supported confidence and independence in learners. So there was the services, there was the literacy component, but there was a lack of empowerment tools that learners could use and retrieve from their tool belt to better apply to their life. So that gap in service was the limited OT informed care um, inside of a literacy program that integrated empowerment and functional skills. So the impact of that empowerment program would lead to increased self confidence, improved engagement, in daily activities, etc. So my objectives, I wanted to gain increased knowledge in the provision of OT services. I did that through the conduction of my literature, locating different articles, references, also attending different classes at the KLC, and learning how to better provide my service of this OT focused lens. Development of an 8 to 10 week occupational empowerment program. I was able to conduct 8 weeks due to some unfortunate weather early on in February of this year, 2025. I missed a couple classes because the Literacy Council was closed on the day I taught. So I was still able to get a good solid 8 weeks of the empowerment program to utilize with learners, which did result in improvements in literacy and occupational engagement. I will also assess the impact. I also assess the impact of the empowerment program through the provision of pre and post course data. Um, and I disseminated my project to site employees, detailing my capstone experience and the findings at the end of week 14. So, the implications of my capstone to OT, to literacy as a whole is first and foremost the expansion of OT practice. As I mentioned earlier, when you talk about OT and literacy, it's typically in an educational setting. So it's important um, to highlight the value of OT when you address functional literacy and life skills. Um, and also using empowerment as a tool. The use of the empowerment strategies that I used was a holistic approach to occupational engagement and improvements to quality of life. In terms of sustainability, I made brochures um, that covered the empowerment topics that I went over in class, also pre and post surveys, and I shared the resources that I used during my classes as well. And for the future of OT, um, obviously there's involvement of OT in community-based programs, but more of a target towards functional literacy and empowerment can work wonders for the field of OT and also literacy. So in conclusion, this little blurb at the top I feel like summed up my project very nicely. I feel like this project specifically demonstrated the value of using OT principles in combination with adult literacy, specifically functional literacy, while integrating the educational and socio-emotional components that support health and well-being. So this project for me highlighted the value of OT in itself, and I'm so appreciative for that. And the outcome specifically reported by learners was more effective application of literacy skills in the real world context, supportive long-term growth and educational work goals. Some learners reported increased self-improvement and the ability to use certain self-improvement strategies in daily life. In terms of sustainability, um, this highlighted a need for continued integration of empowerment topics in lesson planning and literacy classes and courses. And this also opened up a possibility in a space for a designated empowerment course to be held at the KLC in the future. In terms of my appendices, to focus on these two in the middle first, this is the brochure I created. I wanted to make it visually appealing, but also not make it too overwhelming with adding a ton of words and information. So I liked the concept of kind of just putting in little things that we took from class, not the entire lesson, not all the practices and strategies, but the ones that I felt would be most beneficial and fit what I was going for. On the far right, I have my literacy tutor certificate that I was awarded for completing the 12-hour basic literacy tutor training last year in May in preparation for my project. And the last two pieces of information on the far left are just two slides that I took from all the presentations I conducted. It was just an example of just certain things I included in my project and in my presentations, like fitting mindfulness into your lifestyle when we talked about mindfulness. And this slide on the bottom there is from the confidence building presentation where I was highlighting practices and strategies. So that wraps up my doctoral capstone experience. I want to say thank you again to the wonderful staff and learners that I had the opportunity to cross paths with. Um, Throughout this experience. It was absolutely amazing. And I thank each and every one of you for giving me an opportunity and also, taking information from me and allowing information from you. And hopefully we can apply that information in our daily lives and in our own personal walks. Thank you to Dr. Greaves for her support throughout this process as well. Um, and thank you all. Thank you to the KLC. Thank you to Western. That's it.